Welcome to They Mostly Pot Out at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 148. That's 148 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. So we've already watched the Japanese Ring franchise, so now let's see what the Americans can do. They throw a bigger budget, higher production values, and some big names at the problem, but can they stand up to the originals? Join us for The Ring 2, and Rings, which isn't really a reboot. It just kind of, I guess, explores different characters in a future of that same world, I guess.
Yeah, I thought I had seen Rings, and apparently I did not.
I did not. I did not see the second one either.
Okay. So you saw the first.
I did.
All right. Cool.
All right. So The Ring, this American version sticks pretty close
Mm-hmm.
to the Japanese one. I'm not going to go into all the details. I'm just going to kind of focus on what's different here.
Yeah.
And I guess the difference is like the images on the tape itself are a bit different. They seem to be a little bit more of kind of like prophetic images to like a lot of the images that show up on the tape end up happening like later on as they're experiencing things.
Mm-hmm.
Just more of like a kind of visual tie-in to stuff. They do a lot more like researching, like, oh, where did this tape come from? Like, the mess with the tracking and find things off the side of the tape. I didn't know you could do that, but
Sure.
they
If
did that.
if it's a psychic tape, why not?
Right. But I mean, otherwise, it's still the same beats. It's still the mom and the kid and the estranged dad. They like, she makes the copy for him. They go to like the island to research things. I mean, the island is a bit different. Instead of like a bed and breakfast, it's like a horse farm.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of the imagery is like drowned horses, and like the mom was like raised horses, like race horses
Mm-hmm.
or something. There's kind of like a weird subplot of like they didn't really go into it that much in the Japanese one of like what her life was like before she left.
Right.
And this one we get a little bit more background as to like, she was kind of, the stepchild that was a problem, and they kept her in like the barn like then we don't really get a big picture thing of what's going on there, but we do get some more like she was in a mental hospital. There's definitely things wrong with her. There's supernatural stuff happening around her. They in the Japanese one, they say, oh yeah, this happens. But we don't really get, like she was an evil kind of thing. Like in the Japanese one, she wasn't evil at all until like threatened, right?
Yep.
Or after she died. And this one, it seems like she's just an evil entity, period.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this one's about 30-ish minutes longer than the Japanese one.
Right. Yeah. And most of this stuff is just the things that they're,
Mm-hmm.
adding to it or throwing in there.
Right.
And so, yeah, they have the whole, like, this one actually kind of shows you the ring, like the visual ring, like where it comes from, right? It's the light coming from around the well after the lid is put on it, or as the lid is being put on it. So, whereas like the original Japanese one, again, why did they call it ring?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, closest I could get is like the phone rings after you watch it. Maybe that's it. But in the Japanese one, it's not quite as focused. It's like the lady got the phone call, but like other people that watch it don't get the phone call. Like the further they are away from that place, the less likely they are to get a phone call. It's very hit or miss with the Japanese one. And this one, the phone always rings.
Oh, yeah.
The American one, the phone always rings right after you watch it.
And always a landline no matter where you are in this franchise.
No, there's a couple that are cells, but
That's
most
true.
most of them are landlines. Yes, if there's a landline nearby, it will be your landline and not your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why, but yeah, that's it. So, that is different. I mean, kind of the finale is mostly the same. It's where they find the body, they think they solved the curse. The dad gets killed anyway. Then she realizes she has to save her son. She doesn't go to her dad this time. She just like, I have to go find somebody
Yep.
to do this with, but there's no specifics. It
Right.
just that's it.
Right.
And then yeah, that's pretty much the end of that. So again, mostly the same. It adds some flavor here and there. I think just tries to like flesh it out and explain some things that weren't really explained before. Give you a
Hmm.
reason to like fear the little girl instead of just wonder what the hell is going on.
Right.
Um, the main those are the main things. Otherwise, other than that, most of the same beats are
Yeah.
identical.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add as being different? Although again, this one is mostly the same.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's the mom or stepmom or adopted mother that throws her well versus her dad or uncle with a hatchet to the back of the head first,
Right.
and they don't take the body out when they're done to not lead up for the body weird sequel that they did with Ring 2. But that's about it. Yeah.
Um,
So,
no, they took the body out of the well.
well, it doesn't go to where the body goes to. The rest of the there's no reconstruction face in the sequel.
No, no. The sequel is totally different.
Yes.
The sequel has nothing in common with, which is very interesting.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'll bring this up now. The Ring 2 is directed by the original Ring director.
Yep.
And it has no bearing on his original two films, which is very weird to me. I'm just like, why? Yeah, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, yeah. So they brought that director back, not the first one, just the second one. He directed it, and it has nothing to do with the story of the second one. The only real thing from the second one is an additional scene added in this first one. If you remember when I was talking about the Ring before, remember how they mentioned the girl being in the mental hospital and they
Yep.
never visited her? They mentioned it like 3 times in the first film, but they never went there.
Hmm.
And this one, they go there. And the same scene that happens to where she has like the whatever curtain blocking her view of the TV, that's happens. And then she like talks to her and she just gets like a vague, like, you're going to die message from her. And then she's gone. And like, that's the only part of 2 that we get.
Yep.
And that whole subplot of like somehow psychically imprinting a tape is completely gone. None of that exists.
Yep. Yeah. There's pretty much no ESP in this one.
No, it's a purely supernatural slasher.
Yep.
And this, and again, like the second one, we get that one scene added to this film, and that's it. That's
Yep.
the only input the second one has on these.
Yeah. But that's why I had to mention it, just because of that is a slight difference. But
Right.
yeah. But yeah, so that's a pretty good recap. I mean, how many times do you think you've watched this movie overall?
Only once.
So this is your second time then?
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember your first thoughts? Did you see it about when it came out?
Yeah, it was, well, it wasn't like right when it came out, but it was like, because The Ring and The Grudge came out pretty close to each other.
Ish, yeah. Yeah.
And I remember a lot of people talking about how, the Japanese reboots are going to be the way to go, And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I was not interested in anything that was coming out at the time. I'm like, well, we'll see where it goes.
Hmm.
And I watched The Ring and I watched The Grudge, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much the same. Like, nothing is. I mean, they're taking interesting Japanese ideas and then just doing the same generic garbage they were doing with every other film to them.
Hmm.
So it didn't really do much for me. I won't say that I didn't enjoy them; they were okay. But yeah, it didn't really do much for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did not change my mind about horror at the time. So I never bothered watching any of their sequels or anything.
Hmm. Yeah, I saw the first Ring in theaters with the now wife, and you're right. They watered down. This is PG-13 horror, which is what we had in America in this time frame.
Right.
So they toned it down. I mean, like usually we would make it more violent, right? More gruesome, more terrifying. And we didn't. We kept it PG-13, which is honestly for 2002, like I said, that's where we're at. But like if it was any other movie, it would have been like more gruesome. But yeah, we made it. I feel like we made it less somehow with this.
I mean, well, the original didn't really have blood in it.
No, but I
I mean,
mean,
there was some, but like this one pretty much has like none.
yeah, yes, not we don't get the F bomb until the second one, so
Right.
the allocated F bomb.
I mean, there are some gruesome deaths, but they're all like,
Yeah.
you know, bloodless deaths mostly.
Correct. Yeah, and then we actually see their faces are a little bit more like a fist was shoved into their face and stretched out than just their mouth slightly open.
Right. Yeah, they're like zombified and their mouth is wide open. Yeah.
I mean, I maybe have seen this a dozen times at this point in time. You know, I don't catch anything new. There's nothing really new to watch on a rewatch. It's not like hidden ghosts. It's not stuff like that. It's just a pretty straightforward movie, for sure.
Yeah. No, it's this movie again, they're telling me, "Oh yeah, the new wave of,
Mhm,
stuff is going to be they're remaking all these Japanese films." And I like Japanese films.
mhm.
I guess I like more classic Japanese films. I was a big Akira Kurosawa fan even back then. So like I like those. I'm like, "Well, let's see where this goes." And again, I watched The Ring, watched The Grudge. I'm like, "Nah,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
done. I
they
don't need
did a
it."
couple. They did a couple more, and I mean, they're right. There was that wave, but it died off pretty quickly.
Yeah, it did. Well, because they were expecting, they were looking for a new fresh thing and they got the new fresh thing, but like they just Americanized it. So it
Yep.
didn't really do anything. And the interesting things that were happening in the Japanese one weren't happening in this one. They just made it the same as they make every other one.
Yeah, very true. Do you want to go first with your highlights? You want me to go first?
I can go first. No subtitles.
Yeah,
It's been a long time, man. It's been like
a month
it's
and
been
a half.
like yeah, like 2.5 months because it was French before
Yep,
that.
yeah.
It was all French movies, then it was all Japanese movies, and like this is the second week. Well, this is the last month of Japanese films. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's been a long time since I watched one of these films without subtitles. It was interesting. It was fun.
It
Like I
was
said, it has nothing to
refreshing.
do with the movie, but whatever.
Yeah.
Again, I did like how there's a lot more imagery on the tape.
Hmm.
Again, like I think I brought this up. We were talking about the first one. I'm like, there's so many more things happening on that fucking tape. How come they don't look in any of that?
Right.
Like we see the guy with the blanket on his head a couple of times, but he's only like hinted at. They don't ever say who that person even is.
Yep.
And in this one, it's like every little part of the tape is kind of dissected and looked at, and it's like, oh, is this a clue? Is this whatever? Blah blah blah. Even finding the lighthouse on the side of the tape and stuff. It's like they're using the actual tape itself to find evidence to
Yeah.
investigate, which is interesting.
Hmm.
I like that they put the hospital scene from Ring 2 in here. Again, if you didn't see the original Ring 2, you'd have no idea that was a scene like pretty much directly from there, which was interesting. Again, I do like all that tape research that they were doing. They're talking about the master track, like let's track down where it was made. Like all the kind of interesting things like that. They should have asked in the first one, and they never bothered.
Right.
They
Like
just would just
the hex code that's built into it is
right. They were just like, "Yep, this tape exists." Period. And like there was even like, they were like the somehow the media knew about it and were like tracking people that were gonna die and shit, but that no one had any like idea like, hey, maybe we should find out where the fucking tape came from. Like nobody cared. They just cared
yeah.
about the end result of it. Um, so that was interesting.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's about it.
Oh, okay. Naomi Watts, fantastic.
I like Naomi Watts a lot. I don't think she like did a great job in this film though. I mean, she did a decent job. I'm not saying
Yeah.
she did a bad job. I'm just saying like there's plenty of other things that Naomi Watts has done much better job at.
Yeah. I have more gruesome, but I have gruesome in quotes because it is more gruesome, but not like what we expect. So it has a little bit more to it. It's not
Right. It's
just
bloodless, gruesome. People being scared to death, people being
yeah,
electrocuted to death, but no like blood explosions.
yeah. There are still nods to the original Ring. Because they're going through the files. Oh, here's a sheet of Japanese for no goddamn reason.
That no one mentions in any way. Hey, maybe we should translate this. No.
It's even in Rings from 2017,
Right.
but it's there. I'm pretty sure it's the same clock that they have. That we see like reverse in the Ring. like I said, there's a lot more Samara backstory, right? It's not just, oh, your mom was ESP. Oh, she was causing it. No, it's just, this is like, she's a deeply troubled child, and her parents like feared her and put images into their people's heads and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Which in the Japanese one, we really didn't get much
Mm-mm.
of her story at all. Like we just know that I think in the second one they alluded to like, oh, she was the one who killed that reporter guy when
Yep.
her mom was psychically
Yeah.
predicting things. Like that
Yeah.
was her. That's why they had to run, and then she ended up getting killed and put in a well. We didn't really get the idea like of why.
Right. Other than
Again,
she's a witch. That's
yeah,
pretty much it.
the fucking birthday shit kind of sort of tried to
Oh,
explain that, and then just dropped the ball and
oh, they
gave
shit
us
the bed.
no additional information.
Yeah. And and you talk about like I had the ring explained. What? Why 7 days? Because that's how long you'll live in the well. Not 28 fucking years. 7 days.
Yeah, again, that I never understood that plot point in the second one. I'm like, why did they make a point saying she lived for 28 years in a well? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, the things that happen in the American version actually make more sense.
Maybe it makes sense to us, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah. Um, that's what I have. I will go into my low points. I I don't know if I liked horse breeding more or less than ESP. I think I was indifferent about it. I don't think that in Horse Suicide was that interesting of a story either.
I mean, horses can swim.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they can't survive a boat propeller, but
No.
I think that's what they insinuated happened because I was like, horses can swim, dude.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And like I get in the Japanese one, everyone sits too close to the goddamn TV. Everyone sits too close to the goddamn TV in this one too.
well, because it's the focus.
I know, but they're like inches from it. Like the eyeball's about to touch it. I like when Rachel falls down the well. No scratches. She's fine. Nothing happens.
It's a magical well.
Apparently. And when I say her name, Rachel, 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 it's half his kid's lines, calling his mom Rachel, and it's this big like plot point where like that's her kid. It's not just some kid calling her Rachel. No, it's her son. That is like that big like gasp pause that was there for it. And like, well, there's no dad sacrifice at the end, which is interesting because like she pushes the tape in for him and does a copy, and they only like very briefly alluded to that the other piece of the lore of how to survive. It's not only making a copy, it's making a copy and have someone else watch it.
Yeah, but they alluded that they were going to go find somebody to give it to.
Right.
Because it was kind of that line of like, well, who are you going to show it to? Because aren't you going to just, kind of set them to die? And then she kind of gave you like a frowny face and that was it.
But yeah, that second part of the plot point was like the last line of the movie.
Right.
So it was just weird. That's what I have. How about you?
So there was bugs on the tape. That's
Mhm.
gross. Like millipedes that were the size of dining
Chairs.
tables, which is terrifying. Like again, there's another scene with like the coughing up of the hair, like
Mhm.
pulling it out of your throat. Like that's fucking gross and terrifying. Like don't
Yes, it is.
yuck.
Mhm.
The poor kid, right? The poor kid's like neglected. At least she seems to like give a shit about his well-being. In this one,
Much more than the
yeah,
Japanese.
like in the other one, she's just like, oh, he'll raise himself. Like the kid's 8 years old and he's like making his own fucking dinner and shit. Like in the Japanese one, like, oh, he'll be fine. He knows I'm coming home late. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And this one, at least she's like, making sure that he's taken care of and stuff. She's distant emotionally, but not physically like she was in the original one. The dad again doesn't give a shit, doesn't acknowledge the kid at all, which is weird. Like I don't even know if the kid knows that's his dad.
But he
Like,
finds out, he's like, I was going to be a bad dad. So, yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, it's again like they kept that, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? Yeah, she like was going to the horse, and the horse was like obviously distressed that she was near it, and she kept fucking touching it and kept fucking like, okay, the horse is upset. Walk away from the horse.
No, stare at it in the eye.
Right, stare at it in the eye and keep sticking your hand in there. Like, leave it alone. Like it did it once, did it twice. It's gonna do it 3 times. Get away from it.
Mhm.
So like that the horse killed itself was totally her fault.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, when she fell in the well, that was some shitty CGI. It was
Oh,
terrible.
yeah, it was.
Um, then and the whole psychic subplot is gone.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing about the mom being, predicting the future. There's nothing like none of that. It's gone. It's just totally removed. And they don't really explain in this film anyway. They just kind of give you like, oh, that kid's evil.
Mhm.
Period. It's like a Halloween Michael Myers, right? Kid's evil. That's it. That's
Yep.
the line. Nobody tries to do anything to like figure out what's actually wrong with this kid, right? Nope. Just an evil kid. So the mom like kills her. Like, why? We don't really get the like reason why the mom would kill her.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they were uncomfortable around her, but like murder? We don't get enough information to justify a child murder or why they threw her in the well or where that well even was.
Well, it's the Dr. Loomis Institute of Child Psychiatry.
Yeah, exactly. Kid's evil. That's it. Done.
Yep.
It's like I looked at his eyes and it was bad eyes. Like it's the kid's it's a child. What do you mean he's got evil eyes?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, is the whole kind of mythos of like, yeah, it's just an evil kid. You have to accept it. Don't think about it.
Mhm.
That's all I got.
Sweet. All right. So what are our albums this week?
I did conveniently placed TVs because there's a TV in like every room when like they're trying to hide from the tape. Like, of course, there's a fucking TV in the room that they're hiding in every time.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's conveniently placed TV.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't know how I was going to put this, but the overall solution not to get killed by Samara is not be around the screen. You're not around the screen. You know your time's up. Just go into a room that has no TVs, no cell phones, nothing. Are you fine?
Well, it'd have to be a whole house without it because sometimes she can like come out of the room like in the next room.
Right. But I'm just saying, there's places you could go that has none of this stuff
Correct.
fairly easily.
Right.
So I had to throw that in there. Like that seems an easy way to avoid Samara. No one can do that. All right. Do you want me to go first then for our conveniently placed TVs?
Sure.
I don't know. I gave the first, the Ring Japanese one a 9. And I do like this one more. I'm not going to say it's a perfect movie by any stretch. However, I will go with 9.25 conveniently placed TVs out of 10. It's just something that about this, like I said, maybe it's nostalgia for me at this point in time, which is easily possible. That's my score. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not. This one is kind of. I don't know. I want to say just uninspired, right? It takes the original one. It like Americanizes it a bit, throws some money and some names at it, and then just kind of brings out this like soulless kind of copy, in my opinion. It's all right. Is it a movie I want to watch again? No. So I'll give it a 6.
A 6.
6 conveniently placed TVs out of 10.
Now, do you ever think that maybe because they made too many copies that just we got this version of The Ring? Maybe that's the whole idea, is a copy.
Well, this film is not the tape.
All right. So I got Ring 2 from 2005, which if you watched our last time, they churned out 4 movies with a failed sequel in 2 to 3 years. It took 3 years for the next one to come out, which is surprising.
Yeah, because the first one did pretty well, I think.
Yeah, but they able to churn those out pretty damn fast. Like I said, it just took us a while here. So essentially, it's just a couple months later after the first movie. I think it's about like 6 months or something like that. And so essentially, she moves out. Rachel and her son, go down to, I think, Oregon instead of Seattle area, and just like I said, continuation. And we introduce the same whole 7 days things. We get a very, very young Emily Van Camp, she, you know, uh, the power broker from the MCU. Essentially, so yeah, while that happens, a kid dies. She goes to like the insane asylum, and it happens in the same town. And like, it seems like it's the next day that she starts. Rachel starts doing a job at the newspaper, but like it happens. Night happens. They have a nightmare. She wakes up to daytime. The night happens again, and that same death scene occurred. They're still taking the body out, and she realizes that there's still something coming there. It's like, oh shit, it's still here, right? Like I said, she took a different position at the newspaper. She still has a job, and I don't know what her actual title is, but she has like an office.
Well, I think she's probably okay because she was a successful enough reporter in
Mm-hmm.
the first one to where like she could do a lot of shit that the boss didn't necessarily like because she sold papers, right?
Yeah,
So I think, and then she quit the big paper and she came out to like a suburban paper. So they're like over the moon to have her,
yeah.
right? Because it's a little rural paper. They don't really have any big reporters. So she signs up and they probably make her like the head reporter because obviously she's got way more experience and talent than anybody that they have.
So like editor in chief almost. It seems like.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she's editing anything though.
Oh, she
Well,
edited the
no, yeah,
guys.
I guess she does. She does say it a couple times where she like rewrote articles and shit. So yeah, I
Yeah,
guess so.
yeah, yeah. And but she's actually there for her son. She took this job to be a better. Not I'm saying she was a bad mom, but a better mom to her son, to Aiden, right? And so she can spend more time with him because she realizes all this up now. He still calls her Rachel after all these events. They have a nice house and think everything's kind of okay. Like I said, she learns of this. She happens to go to the newspaper, which is once again fully staffed at what time of the night this is, after being fully staffed in the day. As she goes there, goes to the tape, sees his face, the guy that died. It's like, oh shit, it's here. She finds the tape and then burns it, and kind of lets off a spooky scream. Kind of in the process, I said there's a lot of fluff in this movie, so I'm gonna try to cut through most of it. Um, Essentially, her son is still kind of having dreams and nightmares. Like he has visions of Samara on the TV and pulls him in. So, you know, he, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like dream state, it's a lot more like fragmented that maybe he's pulled into this analog world. His temperature doesn't seem to be doing so well, but eventually they, you know, go to a county fair while this is happening, and rightly so. The son is like, hey, I know, things show up in pictures. So he's kind of taking pictures of everyone, kind of, I would say, as like his own way to verify that, no one around him's cursed. I don't think they explicitly say that, but it would make sense. That's what I have in my head. I don't know about you.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, because all of a sudden he's interested in photography. So like I said, I think it's that. But he ends up, in the bathroom, and water just doesn't want to come out, and he's taking a picture in front of the mirror, and Samara's there essentially getting closer to him. And we're expanding the lore because other than that one person watching the tape, no one else does in this movie, right? Other than the opening scene. I think that's it. It's now just dealing with the aftermath of Samara and stuff like that. So eventually that he's hyperthermic. She's like, hey, guy from the newspaper, I need you to help me out here. So they're like, his temperature's 5 degrees colder than what it should be. He's like 93. Should we go to the hospital? No, let's cover his blankets or take a hot bath. And then he kind of gets possessed by Samara in a way, and it makes it seem like that as Max is coming into the bathroom and he's able to get in there, it looks like she's drowning her son, kind of like what we're alluded to in the rest of this movie, that Samara's real birth mother wanted to drown her the same way. And he's like, okay, this is now okay. He's going to the hospital. She ends up going to the hospital, and like, yeah, like, you try killing your son. He has bruises we can't explain. How do you explain all this stuff? It's like, well, after my first month of giving birth, I had postpartum. That must be it. Stay away from your son. Like, postpartum doesn't last 9 years, but whatever. Okay, sure, nurse. But essentially, like I said, all while that's going on there, she does a little more investigation. She kind of finds that, she goes to the old Samara house and does a lot more sleuthing. All the stuff that she was there before, it's kind of in the basement. She finds a little bit more stuff, and she finds that there's record essentially of the birth mother. She goes there, like, she's in a ward, and the birth mother of Samara is played by Sissy Spacek, because they had to get a big horror name into this movie, I think.
I guess, yeah, for a very limited role.
Very limited role, yes. I'd say the younger version of her is even very limited, and that's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, her first movie. And she's like, oh, people know you're coming because you're a kid, something's wrong with it. We want to know what it's like. And she's like, no, I'm here to talk about your kids. Like, what? No one's ever come here to talk to me about my kid. Kind of alluding to that, like, the mom kind of has ESP in a way. I think there's, without saying it. Anyway, while she's learning this more information, Aiden kind of wakes up and convinces, like, through psychic powers, for the nurse to inject herself and kills herself, and eventually finds his way back walking to Max's house, where he eventually kills him. And she kind of sleeps, and the whole thing is like, oh, when you're, I think, like, the dead don't sleep, so therefore when you're sleeping, you're safe from her, which is weird considering he was asleep when he got pulled into the TV. So, in my opinion, a huge plot point.
Well, yeah. Also, how do you communicate when you're asleep?
Right.
And how do you remember it when you wake up?
Right. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, they essentially, you have to exercise the evil from the boy. So she, like, laces, like, peanut butter and jelly with sleepy pills. He realizes that it's not her son because he calls her mother and mommy, and has the same, like, song that he's humming or whistling or kind of singing. It's like, okay, cool. And then she kind of drowns him, and then she ends up, like, goes to the TV and take me, and then she goes into the TV and into the monochromatic world that is Samara. She's like, okay, I think we gotta take care of this. And she kind of pushes and she falls down the well again and climbs her way up. It's a big, great chasing up the well. She pushes the lid closed, and she's like, hey, here's the cliff where Samara's mom in the video jumped off. I'm gonna do the same thing, but while jumping off the cliff, she wakes up and everything's okay. The end.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's essentially like Samara possesses the boy.
Mm-hmm.
She does some research to try to figure out what's going on. She really doesn't, and then,
No.
like, uses magic to somehow exorcise him, and then that's it.
Right. So, destroying the tape, which she said no one else watched it. There's only one person watched the tape. And then somehow she now has powers outside the tape world.
Right.
Somehow. I don't know how. Never, ever explained. And I don't think it will ever be explained. I had forgotten some pieces of this movie. I think I've only seen this one a couple of times. And going through with, like, this review point of it, it's not good. I'm trying to figure out what in my head is a worse sequel. The Ring 2 that we got in Japan, which is all over the fucking place. versus this that doesn't follow it. Is that good for not following it? I'm not really sure about that one right now. But this is your first time seeing this, correct?
Right.
So what was your first thoughts on this?
I mean, essentially, you can see they brought the original Japanese director in, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he tried touching on some of the themes that he used in his films,
Yeah.
but it's very off-putting and odd because the first film didn't follow those at
Right.
all. Like the whole Samara being like psychic, there being like psychic magic happening around, like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
shit. Like none of that happens in the first one.
Right.
And then this one comes in with like everyone assuming that they know that there's psychic magic going on, which obviously we don't. Like, unless you've watched the original Japanese ones, you don't know,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, these are it's just kind of off-putting and kind of like plot lines that don't make sense because I think they're building off of the original Japanese ones and not the American Ring that this is supposedly the sequel to.
Right. They made a sequel to the Japanese but American.
Right. Right. It's very odd.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go first with my highlights. Mary Elizabeth Winstead. For the brief thing that we got, and we got, I guess, some expansion of Samara. Never explained, but I mean, at least there was something more. But that's about it. This movie is not good. How about you?
I mean, again, it's interesting that the Ring 2, this one has the same protagonist in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where the other one did not. Like they showed up later and then got killed off screen. So like that's interesting. Yeah, that that's the same protagonist. I did appreciate seeing Sissy Spacek pop up. I saw her name in the credits like before I watched it. And I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
But then I forgot that I saw that. By the time I got to it, I'm like, oh yeah, she did say it. She's in it.
Yep.
They say it a lot of times in the film, and it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. It's like, oh, you have to murder the child to save it.
Yep.
But what? what are you talking about? They keep doing it, and it's like that's not real murder. You're just like you're strangling the kid until Samara goes, oh shit, I think I might die in here, and then she leaves. So you're
Yep.
not killing the kid. But they specifically say kill the child multiple times.
Yes.
And I appreciate the original director coming back. But that's about it for high points. So low points. So one is they completely abandoned the tape story, right?
Yep.
Like the tape story is like the beginning of the film, and then it just nope, done. She burns the tape. Another tape just never appears.
Nope.
Samara is now somehow magically in the ether that infects a child, even though he didn't watch the tape.
Yep.
Again, which is something that kind of sort of happened in the Japanese too. But again, in the Ring that we watched, this American one does not make sense.
No.
Because none of that stuff happened at all. Again, like how is the tape following her? Like, why is it following her? Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't that far away. There's no way that it would have replicated this far that fast.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. That whole deer attack
Uh-huh.
scene is just ridiculous. It makes no sense. They never allude to anything with deer again. It's just like a big stupid CGI scene that just wastes time in the middle of the film.
It seems like it's from I Am Legend.
Yeah, it's like it's already long enough. We don't need more shit.
Yep.
The kid has like magical mind control that he really only uses like one time,
and
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why? Like that's a significant fucking power that would have made his job a lot easier if he continued to use it. But no, he only used it the one time.
Yeah.
Again, like why is Samara so afraid of water? Like every other depiction of her, water precedes her.
Yep.
Water is attached to her. Water is a part of her being. Why is she afraid of it now?
Because Jason was afraid of water and Freddy versus Jason for some reason. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, again, like the ending doesn't make any sense to me. And again, like the well was always sealed, right? Mm-hmm. Like why why are we I don't know. There's so many things that I don't understand that's happening in this. I think it's just because the original director is like, yeah, I'm going to make the sequel which is going to be a sequel not only to the American one, but also to mine.
Yep.
But I'm not going to explain why there's these magical powers in this one that I put in my sequel, but did not exist in this. It's very odd. It's a very odd decision. I understand why there wasn't any more after this, because a lot of people were probably very confused.
Oh, yes.
So that's all I got.
Yeah, definitely number one CGI deer attack. It's just stupid. Like I said, every time she went to the newspaper, no matter what time of the day, fully staffed, nonstop. That's so weird.
Well, I mean, we don't know what time of year it was.
That's true.
So, like, yeah, it was dark, but it might have been like 6 p.m., which is not that odd.
And, like, shouldn't it be in the hospital? His temperature is, like, almost 90 degrees. No, just some blankets. You're not really thinking this one through.
Well, the dude was like, for real, he was like, no. Like, we're going to the fucking hospital. Like, I don't know what you're smoking, lady, but, like, I respect you and all, but, like, your child is going to fucking die. Like, I'm taking him to the hospital.
Right. Like, I don't understand her desire to not take him there. Like, she could fix the hypothermia.
Well, yeah, but she, like, in her mind, I know what the problem is. They can't fix supernatural problem. Like, no, but they can, like, heat them up.
They have heating blankets.
Right, yeah. Like, they can do something.
Right. He'll be better off. You could still be there, but he'd be better off. Yeah. With this stuff, like, she doesn't need the tape anymore. Like, in my opinion, that just destroys most of the lore.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a sequel to the Japanese sequel.
Yeah.
Not to the original Ring. Like, the Ring in the original American one here was very closely tied to the tape, but the Japanese one was a little swimmy sometimes, right? When it came to, like, if it's on the tape or not. Especially the sequel, where it was like, if you had watched the tape but then saved yourself, somehow you're now still a slave to the tape. Like, there was a lot of weird things that came up in the second one that were not in the first one.
Right. You may survive the tape, but now you have the ability to be possessed at any time.
Right. And you can psychically project the tape at any time.
Right. Which is bizarre.
Correct. But yeah, I feel like this was a sequel to all of those.
Right.
And not this one.
And then the CGI Samara was awful. Absolutely awful.
Not as bad as the deer.
I mean, you're correct, but it's still really bad.
Correct.
I mean, like, the first one, you didn't really feel necessarily like that she was CGI. Like, this one was very CGI for her. So, that's all I have. So, why don't you go first? How many conveniently placed TVs out of 10 do you give the American Ring to?
Obviously, I didn't like this one as much as the first one. 4.5.
Which is lower than what you gave the Japanese one, which is surprising.
Well, the Japanese one at least was, like, staying true to itself. This one doesn't even do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's very true. Yeah. This definitely took a nosedive, and I can see why I just stopped after the first Ring, generally speaking. Do you need to watch 3 movies before this one? Yes, you do. To have any hope, have it make sense. We only knew it because of what we did. In 2005, I had no clue to look at it this way. So I will give this 5 conveniently placed TVs out of 10. It's just a huge, huge nosedive. For sure. All right, then you have the last one, I believe.
Of this franchise, yeah.
Yes.
So there's Rings, which is 2017. Obviously, years have passed here. Yeah. Now, it's not a reboot. Nope. It is not removing what previously happened. It's just not focusing on those characters anymore. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Samara is still a part of it, but, like, Naomi Watts and her son are not here. So it basically centers on a, like, young, like, high school couple, to where the boyfriend goes away to college, and then they kind of, like, have a falling out ish. Mm-hmm. To where he's doing his thing in college, and they're trying to do a long distance thing, and she's kind of feeling like left out, right?
Yeah.
So it gets to the point where he's not responding to her anymore and hasn't for several days. She gets like a weird Zoom call from like some random chick in his dorm room, like looking for him.
Hmm.
And so at this, she decides it's an emergency, and now she drives all the way to the college to find him. Long story short here, she basically finds out that the tape has been found by a professor who
Yep.
found it at like a flea market, I guess. Is that what you can? Sure, it's a flea
Yeah.
market.
Flea market.
So he finds the tape in an old VCR in a flea market, which I guess we do get the beginning of the plane, and then Samara apparently killing everyone on the plane. Because we do get that he died in a plane crash, which means like I'm guessing that everyone died, which is a step up from the first two, right? Where it would like she would only focus on one person at a time, whoever watched the tape. And this one, it's like all the people on the plane obviously did not watch the tape; only one person did, but she got the go ahead to kill everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're living with a more powerful Samara in this film. So anyway, so the professor is now making an experiment of the whole thing, right? So like he makes the kids watch the tape, he sets a timer, and then he experiments like what's going on with them, how they experience like hallucinations, and they get marked, like they did have kind of an allusion to this in some of the other films to where like sometimes Samara would like touch you and you'd get a mark on you, like a handprint or something.
Like a
And
burn almost. Yeah.
right. But it wasn't consistent. It happened a couple of times, but it didn't happen every time. But this one, it seems to happen every time.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's like this whole experiment going on. The girlfriend somehow figures this all out and sneaks into their like secret base. To where they have like, big monitors on the wall with all the timers and everything, blah, blah, blah. She sees the girl. The reason why he's doing this is he's apparently trying to have some kind of thesis about how there is an afterlife.
Yeah.
And their souls exist because this girl is dead and she's somehow haunting things. So that's why he's doing this. But apparently he knows the whole thing to where you have to copy it and show it to someone else to restart your timer. Right. So you'll be fine as long as you do that. And they call it a tail for some reason. I don't know. It's like they made up a terminology for this film. Anyway, so she finds the girl that called her on Zoom. She's like freaking out because like today's her day that the 7 days are up. The professor's like, "Oh, I'll send you a tail. Don't worry about it. Just go home." So she goes home. She doesn't get the tail, but she somehow like gets the girlfriend to come in the house with her after they chase each other around. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you exactly where your boyfriend is. You just got to watch this tape first." Right? And apparently now it doesn't have to be VHS anymore. Now it can be copied QuickTime videos.
Yeah.
Which I was like, 2017. We're still using QuickTime videos. Like, when did QuickTime go out? Like, stop being used?
They're poor college students. Okay.
I guess. Like, okay. Somebody's attached to Apple a little too much. So she tries to get her to watch it. She won't watch it. And then she basically gets killed by Samara, who comes out of the TV and kills her. And then she finally meets up with the boyfriend who's like, "Oh yeah, me and her were supposed to be like partners to like help each other through it. He didn't do a very good job because he abandoned her, right? She was looking for him the whole time." And then he disappeared. He had no explanation on where he was or why he didn't answer anybody, but he's like, "Oh, I'm here now."
Yep.
So he tells her the whole story. He tells her, they have a big conversation with the professor where they go over all the shit that's going on. So he's like, "Yeah, I only have 12 hours left. I got to get somebody to watch it. So I only have 12 hours left to live. I'm just going to go to sleep."
Yeah.
So he goes to sleep. She wakes up in the middle of the night and watches his video. Now, conveniently, I guess he had already copied it because I was sitting there thinking, like, she just watched his video.
And he put it on a thumb drive that she happened to find and put
right. I'm just saying, like, I was like, if she just watched his video, that means that she started her own timer and he's still got his timer going.
I would agree.
But again, it did say copy on it. I did rewind it to see, did it say copy? It does. It says Colt experience dash copy, which means that he apparently copied it anyway. So she watches it. She gets marked right away with a weird symbol on her hand. And she starts seeing stuff right away, which is like, you know, uh,
Not the
I
pattern.
guess right, yeah, not the standard, right? Everybody else takes days to get marked and see stuff, and she's seeing stuff like immediately.
Hmm.
So they talk to the professor guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's interesting. Oh look, your tape is somehow bigger than the other one, and it's got different stuff on it." So she watches the other stuff, and it's caused a whole bunch of other random images.
Yep.
That doesn't mean anything to her now, but this for whatever her tape is different. So again, long story short, again, she follows all the images on this new tape that was just for her. And she finds like this old flooded town, an old church that's no longer a church anymore, and then like this old blind guy who apparently knew who um, Evelyn, who is Sissy Spacek
Hmm.
from the Ring 2, was like her younger life and like where she apparently had her kid or whatever, where she lived at that time, blah blah blah. So they talk to the blind guy. They're like, okay, that's there's the information. Like, oh, where's she buried? Oh, she's buried somewhere out of town. They go to like the empty grave, and she has like a weird vision quest inside the grave.
Well, she said, how'd you find the only grave that's not marked? Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, she had all the visions like in her head that told her what
Yeah.
was there. Anyway, so they go back to like their bed and breakfast. That they get the boyfriend goes off to try to like talk to the innkeeper who kind of alluded that she knew stuff before,
Hmm.
but wasn't telling the whole story. So he goes to talk to her, and she goes back to um, the church because she has like a vision of something else being at the church. So she goes to the church alone. She ends up finding a hidden basement room that was apparently where Samara was being held captive by the old priest. So the old priest kept her down there, and I apparently raped her and impregnated her and kept her down there until she was like just about to give birth, and then she managed to escape, and then that's where she went to um the women's home that we saw her in the second one.
Hmm.
So that's where she gave birth, and that's where her story, obviously she stayed there, and then Samara got adopted off, whatever. But this is the story of like how she was like conceived and like up until the point of where we know what happened to her in the second one. That's where this one's going.
Hmm.
um so she basically goes back to the blind guy now to ask questions, like, oh, I found this stuff in the church, what do you know about it? And then the guy um talking to the lady, she says everything that happened to Evelyn, that she disappeared and nobody knew where she was, and then she reappeared later. And then they find out that, oh, so where's this priest guy? And he's like, oh, the priest is still there. He's blind now. And so then he realizes that the priest guy was the guy that they had talked to earlier. And so he's the guy that, probably kidnapped her. I don't know how he quite figured that out, but he knew that because he was like urgent that I need to go find her. I think because the priest like stopped being a priest and was like being a creep around town, or whatever it was.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Whatever it was, he somehow knew that the priest was dangerous, and he had to get back to her. So we go back to her asking the priest questions. The priest basically, she figures out that he is the priest and he locked her down there, and then there's a big fight where he like wraps his fists in like his old priest stole, right? And then attacks her with his cane. And I don't know, he's like a very good fighter for being a blind guy and not being born blind. Like he became blind much later. But anyway, he's a very good fighter. He knows every inch of that house so well. He acts like he can see the whole time.
Well, let's just call him a mix between Matt Murdock and Kingpin.
Well, yeah. Well, again, yeah, it is Vincent D'Onofrio. So yeah, he did have character study with Charlie Cox. So
Yeah.
maybe that's where he learned it. So yeah, so they're chasing each other around. He, keeps beating her up and then getting away, and she knocks him down the stairs, and we think he's dead, but he's not. The guy gets in the house and he knocks the guy out, whatever. And she ends up finding Samara's bones in the wall.
Hmm.
because apparently he had taken them out of the grave, and instead of putting them in the state graveyard like he said, he put them in the wall because he wanted to keep her close to him. And the reason why she doesn't do anything to him is because he blinded himself. Because somehow he knew that if he couldn't see her, she couldn't hurt him. Which I don't know how that makes sense.
He just knows.
Because there's a lot of times where she came out of the TV and went after people and they didn't even know she was there.
Mm-hmm.
So why would it matter if they could see her? I don't know, maybe they can't die of shock if they don't see her. I don't know.
They always zoom in on the eye and assume that she's doing some psychic thing to kill him. So
right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't really explain that, but that they do say that.
Mm-hmm.
So then they have big fight, whatever. He gets taken out, and then that's they apparently they burn her bones, which is supposed to set her free.
Yep.
So supposedly she's free now.
Sure.
There you go.
Sure. Yes. The most painstaking. After you find out what the Braille says, R-E-B, that's rebirth. No, I. Okay. A couple minutes later, R. No, T. Yeah, it's rebirth. Last thing, H. Yeah, got it. Thanks. We knew after 3.
Right. Yeah. So she ends up getting becoming the
reincarnation of Samara.
Yeah, reincarnation. Samara possesses her and takes her over.
Yeah.
So that's the sequel bait ending, which I kind of I don't know. Burning her bones, I think was a good ending. The goofy sequel bait just felt out of place, but it is there. So
it is there. It is there. I mean, because they're still planning on doing Grudge versus The Ring. Because it happened in Japan. So they're preparing for this 2017 and then the 2020 Grudge to do just that. I think they're still trying to do that.
Yeah, we're not doing all that now.
No.
Just so you know. We're just doing the original one. Maybe at some point in the future we'll go back and do the verses, because there's a lot more to these franchises.
Oh, especially the Grudge.
Yeah, there's a bazillion of them. Each one of these, the Grudges is there's 4 films each, because those are the 4 foundation films. There's a lot more spin-offs and even sequels to those.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, so maybe at some point we'll get there, but for now we're just sticking with the foundation franchise. No crossovers, none of that stuff.
Yep. Like I said, this is my first time seeing this, and I just for a long while thought, when I was watching this, yes, I know it came out, but did Sci-Fi do this? It seemed like something Sci-Fi would do. How we got Puppet Master 10 on Sci-Fi.
But this had a much higher production value than a Sci-Fi original one.
Oh, easily. That is very, very true. But yeah. Well, I mean, what was your first thought on this?
I mean, I thought they had some interesting points. They were doing some interesting things that I thought was pretty cool. Kind of the whole experiment thing and the whole looking into backstory that we never got before was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're doing some interesting things in here, but I mean, overall, nothing too groundbreaking.
Well, I mean, at least they had people watching it again.
Yeah, they did bring the tape back, right?
So, yeah. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. That's fine.
Okay.
There was lots of vintage VHS and VCRs in there.
Sure was,
which was interesting. I liked that in the beginning. Again, they switched over to fucking QuickTime. I know that's on my other side, but I just want to say it now. That was so annoying to me. I hated that. Anyway, but then again, they stayed true to the mythos, right? They kind of ran with what the first 2 did, and they kind of stayed true to that. They didn't try to retcon anything. I thought they did a retcon, but it wasn't a retcon. It was just things that they said, but they eventually later in the film found out that those things weren't true. So they did stay close to it. Again, it wasn't a reboot. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a reboot. I thought it was going to be a rehashing of the first one again, but it wasn't. It was interesting enough. Again, they expanded even more on the tape and the lore and the experiment and stuff like that. I thought that was cool. Like looking into that kind of stuff was fun. Vincent D'Onofrio is in this. I was shocked when he showed up. I was like, is that fucking Vincent D'Onofrio? Like, how did they get him? Because like he doesn't show up until like over an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
And then it's just Vincent D'Onofrio. I was like, how is the biggest name of this fucking film not show up until like the last quarter of the film? But he did a fucking fantastic job.
Yes, he did.
He outacted the shit out of everybody else in this film, like by a long shot.
Oh, he was actually trying to.
Yeah, he was great in this film. Everybody else, not so much, but he was great.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we finally have an explanation on why. They didn't really go too much into this, but I guess this is just my headcanon, right? As to like why the whole tape thing started in the fucking first place. Like what the purpose of that was. Like, yeah, they kind of alluded to in the first one, oh, she's just evil. That's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, in this one, they actually tell you, like, again, I guess I kind of had to infer that they didn't really say it, but the whole point of her doing that was to find her dad. Because for whatever reason, she had no connection to him. And so she needed to keep moving this tape along to person to person to person to person. So someone would eventually fucking find him so that she could find him.
Right.
It's like, that's the point of it. They don't really explicitly say that that's the purpose of the tape, but like, to me, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a real reason why this tape, like why she would psychically kill people through this fucking tape and why they would have to copy it and hand it off to other people is because she's actively seeking something out. So that was like a really interesting, way to add it, like a way to like wrap it up and make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Which usually trilogies rarely ever get that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got for high points.
Yeah. It was, like I said, it was definitely a better sequel than, especially the third one of Regan's 0 birthday that we got, right, in Japan. I even think that you talk about the science experiment, was a better science experiment than whatever the fuck it was in number 2. Like Johnny Galecki's character saw it, he understood it, and then was trying to prove something. He kind of, other than people being flaky because they're stupid college students, was pretty good about it. He had things kind of under control. It felt like, even having the video camera up there to see people's, are you cursed or not? So you know whether you can do it or not. And it brings up a point that it really makes you think about it, right? Because she had the video within the video, right? So therefore she had a different video. So if the same people that had already watched her version, would they get cursed again? Was this an evolution of Samara and what she's doing with the digital age?
I think, for whatever reason, I think what it boiled down to is like somehow that girl was like special or chosen. Maybe she had psychic powers too, and she sensed that. Yeah. And so she was able to like send more information through her psychic message than she normally does.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got out of it. I don't know if that's true or not, but they don't explain why she's special in any way. To me, that makes sense.
Right. And I do like the fact because, we talked about like, when these came out, cell phones weren't a huge thing. They weren't necessarily video screens, but then having a modern-ish cell phone, Samara came out of it like, well, how the hell are you going to do that? Because she's only come out of TVs that is big enough for her to fit through until this movie.
But I mean, some of the TVs were pretty small.
But I'm saying it is more like, okay, how she can get through the phone? Well, then she gets the flies, and then she comes out that way, which is pretty interesting.
She was even able to come out of a TV that was facing the floor.
Right. So you kind of figure out like, I think this is kind of just proving people's arguments of like how to get around her. I appreciate that for it. I think D'Onofrio was fantastic. Like I said, he had some of that rage that he brought as Kingpin, but he also brought the aspect of it as Charlie Cox's Daredevil. And I think he melded them together really well, showing that he is who he is in the acting world. I said everyone else just seemed to be there. He was the character. He was the blind priest. And it's a bad ending. The American ones kind of end on an okayish note. This one's like, no, we're fucked. So I do like that. I'll roll into my low points. I called it Final Ring Nation instead of Final Destination because some of these things were Final Destination-y as shit. Especially the airplane scene.
I thought it was funny that like in this film, it's like if she gets entry into a place with people, she can kill all of the people, which is like totally against what or the rest of the films, even the Japanese ones, said.
Right. Well, we had a logging truck. We had someone almost getting hit by the bus. This is all stuff in Final Destination, so it really glared out to me. And our protagonist, I preemptive Samara. Before she saw the tape, she had visions of that. How's that work? I don't know. That's maybe trying to show why she's special, is my guess.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Like, I think she was like had psychic abilities before that, and I think that's why Samara was able to connect with her better and give her more information.
Yeah.
Because again, what my theory is like, yeah, this is the way for her to get the tape to her father eventually. But like again, she can only communicate so much.
Right.
Now, if she gets somebody that's actually psychic, then she can connect with them and give them more info. Like the images she gave directly to her were the images that tied her directly to that town.
Yeah.
Directly to the church, directly where her dad was.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. On the copy file, no. Oh shit, we tried everything. Really? Didn't even like try to scan it for anything.
They right clicked and hit copy and it won't work.
Yeah. That's also
it's a Mac.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, I like they kind of gave up pretty fast on that part.
Well, because for the movie to make sense, they have to.
Yeah. And so they made a comment talking about ancient rituals of burning the body being a primitive way. It's not primitive. Burning the body to ward off things is a not primitive practice. It's fairly common in lore. So I thought that was weird they mentioned that.
I mean, what do you mean? It's a primitive practice.
It's not unheard of though.
What do you mean?
Funeral pyres, cremations is not primitive.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it depends. There's a lot of different cultures. That's the whole thing. Like some people buried them, some people burned them, some people fucking ate them. There's all different cultures and all different ways to do it. So yeah, there was a lot of like, especially like Native American tribes. Like Native American tribes had like, sometimes they would like put them out in the sun. Sometimes they would burn them. Sometimes they'd bury them. Like there's all kinds of different ones, and that's the same area.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of ancient things that were about burning things.
I just didn't think it's as uncommon as they made it seem to be.
I don't think they made it uncommon.
Well, that was like their last resort. It was just to burn the body.
I don't think it was the last resort. I think it was the final resting. That was the only way she could rest. Is that they found her bones and then burned them, so she had no tie to the world anymore.
Right, but we already proved that she can just do whatever the hell she wants, whenever she feels like it.
Well, yeah, again, that was to me that was the real ending.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rebirth shit was like tacked on trash.
Yeah, I agree. Those are my low points. How about yours?
Yeah. So like, he's like, I had to find a VCR. Like, it's so hard, dude. You find a VCR, dear God.
Yeah.
It's 2017. I think they were still selling them
in a college town.
Right. Yeah. Go to a pawn shop, dude.
Yeah.
I really hated that there was all QuickTime videos and they had to just copy them and that was it. Like, dude, you know how easy that would get out of control? Like, if you just emailed that to some idiot, they would like, and then they just have to copy it and send it to somebody else. Like, it would be like 1 million people in a fucking week. Easy.
Well, that was the ending of the movie.
Well, but I'm just saying, like, that would have happened way earlier. College kids?
Oh, yeah.
Way earlier than that.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the fact that after the exposition dump, right? Mm-hmm. This is after everything is fully explained to her. she just watches the tape on her own. Like,
Yep.
knowing fully everything that's going on, knowing fully, like, she doesn't even know if this is the copy or not. She just gambled that it was and just opened it and watched it. Thankfully, it worked out for her, but, like, the hell is wrong with you? And then the dude was like, oh, yeah, I only have 12 hours left to live. I'm going to go to sleep.
For like 7 hours.
Like, what the fuck? No way in hell I'd be able to sleep if I knew I was going to die in 12 hours.
Yeah.
And I originally had that Sissy Spacek was retcon, because when they're talking originally, they were talking about how the mother was like, no one knew who the mother was. The mother was like, nobody found any information about where the baby came from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, that's bullshit, because the second one we found all that out. But later on, they do explain that. It's just at that time, the information they had was wrong. But they did fix that, so I did cross it out, but I figured I'd mention it.
Yeah.
The whole magic baby shit is never fucking explained, but at least the Sissy Spacek retcon was going back. Dude, like, there's so many cicadas at the end. It's so disgusting. I'm like, please stop with the fucking cicadas. Then another scene of like pulling hair out of the throat, which is fucking disgusting. I don't know why they do that. And again, like, the ending after the real ending, to me, that sequel bait ending, I thought was pretty lame.
Yeah. I like your plan of just ending it where you're ending.
I mean, you can make a sequel anyway. I mean, dude, people make sequels from fucking films that are definitely over.
Yes.
But then they make a sequel anyway. They just make up some bullshit. So if you're going to make a sequel, just make up some bullshit. You don't have to, like, bait it.
Especially in the horror world, they do it nonstop.
Right. It's like you can just give every movie an ending, and then if you do a sequel, great. If you don't, it has an ending.
Yep.
But everybody has to try to bait that sequel. I don't know why.
I don't know. That's all you got?
That's all I got.
All right. I'm trying to figure out where I put this one. Haven't only seen it once, right? Do I like it more than Ring 2? I feel like I do. It's just a more interesting take on it. So I will give this 6 conveniently placed TVs out of 10. How about you?
I'm gonna go a little higher, actually. Like, I actually like this one. I think I like it more than the first one.
Oh wow.
Because this one again had more interesting stuff. Like, it had the experiment, the whole, like, finding more information about the town, and more, added more lore and more tape, this is the first film that added more to the tape.
Mm-hmm.
So the 6th film in the franchise is the first one that added anything new to the tape in a sequel, which I was like, the whole fucking movies are about this tape. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how can, somebody's like, hey, maybe we fast forward all the way to the end. No one ever tried to do any of that.
Right.
And this one is the first one that, like, gives you a little more, which I thought was fun,
Mm-hmm.
I think the girl kind of sucked at acting.
A little bit.
The dude was not great, but I think Vincent D'Onofrio makes up for all that because he's fucking amazing.
You're right.
But yeah, I'm not going to say this is a great film, but again, I do like it more than the first 2 here. So I'm going to go 7.5.
Wow.
I did like what it was trying to do.
I think that's your second highest for the entire 6 movies.
Yeah, the first one is obviously it's an original idea that did its own original thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It deserves to be the highest. But again, everything after that was just kind of convoluted. Like, what the fuck is going on? And this one is like the first one that knew what it was doing, adding more to it, but staying faithful to the rest. Again, I think whoever did this, they did a good job. They kept everything under control. They didn't get sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing I like the least about this film is the whole tacked on fake sequel ending. I like the original ending, but
yeah,
that's all I got.
All right, cool. Take us home.
All right, so that's one franchise down and one more to go this month. Anyway, so yeah, next week we jump into the other big Japanese horror franchise with The Grudge. We start with the Japanese, and there's lots of Ju-ons here. There's Ju-on the Curse, Ju-on the Curse 2, Ju-on the Grudge, and Ju-on the Grudge 2. Now, a lot of these are shorter, which is why this one is okay to have 4 films. The American one, there is 4 films, and they are all full length, which is going to be fun. But So we'll see. I did see the original American Grudge, but I haven't seen any of these other ones. So there's what this month will be another 7 Grudge films that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, these Japanese ones next week. I have not seen any of these. And we'll do. I think technically the Curse and the Curse 2, they say you don't need to, but they are technically part of the franchise, and they did
They're
come first. So
yeah, they introduced the essentially the woman and boy
right.
into the so it makes sense to start there.
Right. So yeah, that's why the Curse 2, the Grudge 2 are all there. And then that's next week, and then the week after is when we do the American ones.
Yep.
And then we're done with subtitles for a little while.
We've had a few months of subtitles.
Yeah. Again, it's been like 2.5 months of subtitles.
I think we started in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was the French, the French month is when we started. So yeah, we had an entire French month, we had an entire Japanese month, and this is at least it's only half. But yeah, so we do have this one, and the next week is going to be the last of the subtitles for a while.
Yep.
So that'll be fun. Anyway, so remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to.
And this has been Graveyard saying, "Have you checked on the children?"
This is Salem saying, "Long live the new flesh."
Good night.